So, this is the characters for Thoroughly Modern Millie, and these are also the descriptions, the songs, and the voice types that the actors should have for these types of characters. Now, we're gonna start off with Millie because she's the main character of the whole story. She's Her style is she's sweet. She's a classic type of lady from the 1920s. She has a very strong voice with lots of stamina, so you have to have loads of stamina when it comes to this musical. When it comes to performing, she's got to have good comic timing and she has to have good acting skills. The role should be played by a female or can be played by a female. The voice range is a mezzo soprano, so there's lots of notes where she's singing very high, but she's also belting a lot, which does seem to be the style of what she sings. The dancing that she should do, she is a dancer, so she should have the techniques of tap, jazz, anything really, but she needs to be a dancer. The age range is a young adult slash adult, so this has to be a 20-ish. So it used to be young 20s, mid 20s as an adult. The accent should be New York. It can be New York. It could be any part of New York, but it cannot be from Brooklyn because that is a strong accent and it'll be difficult for the audience to understand what Millie would be saying at that point. The songs that Millie is a part of is the main one, Not for the Life of Me, Thoroughly Modern Millie, How the Other Half Lives, Speed Test, and Jimmy in the first act. In the second act, main song, Forget About the Boy, Sweet Mystery. She's not singing in this, but she is in the background, which means that she should be aware of the timings. She's also in I Turn the Corner, Gimme Gimme, Speed Test Reprise, and Thoroughly Modern Millie Reprise. Now that's a lot of songs, especially for one actor. That is why the stamina comes into effect at that point. My main point for Millie would be if you don't have good stamina, but you really want the role, you would need to be very vigilant and also agile. You need to be really good, especially for this. She's in 90% of the time. She's going to be really tired by about the end of the musical. I wouldn't be surprised if most of the actors at this point would be very tired at the end of this. So let's go on to the next character. Now, Jimmy Smith. He's a very charming person. He's a very classical character. Same with Millie. He's a very classical character when it comes to cracking a joke. He's got a very weird charm. He's got a weird charm of he's trying to impress girls all the time because he always does. He gets the girl. He gets the girl all the time. Again, he has good comedy timing. He has amazing good comedy timing, creating a lot of laughs within the audience, which is brilliant when it comes to gaining laughs. The role should be played by a male, and the voice range should be a tenor. This is because of the song What Do I Need with Love, where the highest note that he has to reach is about a G4, which is not that high, but it is very high, especially for people who are quite low tenors. So it's obviously going to be a struggle for the actor, but it's also going to be very worth it when it comes to effect. He is also a dancer as well, which means that he should be agile towards the style of jazz, because he's not really doing much tap in the show. He should learn more towards the style of jazz. The age range is, again, young 20s, mid 20s, as a young adult and an adult. Jimmy, now he should have a New York accent. It could be any part of New York apart from Brooklyn again. But for some people, they've decided to go for a Long Island accent, which is quite different because it's not normally the style of what people would sound like would sound like from New York. So I'd say if you want to go for a Long Island accent, I'd go for it. It's a very different accent, and many people haven't tried it before. But if you can, go for it, and he might sound good. The songs that he is involved in is Thoroughly Modern Millie. He's not really having a solo in that. He's in there for the chorus and is singing quite a bit, especially within the chorus. He's also in the Nutcracker Suite. Now, this is only because he is dancing with the Pearl Lady and is also dancing with Millie as well in that scene. After that, it is What Do I Need with Love, which is what I had said earlier about the high note of G4. It's a very difficult song. It's difficult for somebody who has a lower tenor range. They need to have a pure tenor voice, especially when it comes to that high note and you're belting it out. He's also in Act 2, he's also singing I Turn the Corner and Falling in Love with Someone reprise, which is a very romantic song, so he's got to have that really romantic feel towards Millie. He's also in Long As I'm Here With You, but he's just acting. Speed Test, reprise, he's only in there in the background. And he's in Thoroughly Modern Millie reprise, which is the end of the show. Now, we go on to Trevor Graydon. Now, he is a very, very firm man. He's definitely a boss of the show. Now, he is the boss of Millie Dilmount, and he's like a manly man. Like, he is a very stern individual. So from this, you can build such a strong character from playing such a very... It's almost... You're a very firm individual. So when you can be very, very strong towards singing, acting, anything, especially towards the audience. But the audience from the original Broadway cast, he's quite funny. He's got very good comedy timing, which is really strange. But this does go on to the fact that he is both pompous and goofy at the same time, which adds the time of comedy. Gender should be played by a male, so that shows the firm, strong mentality. His voice range is a baritone. Now, this makes him very strong as a character. By having that low voice, he can present his dominance towards the stage, so it can overpower Jimmy, for example, or it can overpower another character who's not as big as him. The dancing he should do is a mover. He's not a big dancer, he's not moving about a lot. He is just moving about. He doesn't move a lot, but I mean, that's his character, really. He's a very firm individual. He can't really move that easily. Yeah, the age for the character should be a adult, so around late 20s, 30s, early 30s. His accent should be... It can be any accent from America, really, but I'd suggest going New York. I'd say New York would probably be a more good stance for him, especially when he has a very broad knowledge of what is needed for the character. But I wouldn't use Brooklyn for any of the accents. As I wouldn't use any Brooklyn accent for any character for Thoroughly Modern Millie, because it takes away the style of Thoroughly Modern Millie. It's a very classical musical, and I think that if you use a Brooklyn accent, it takes away that classical feeling. Now, the main songs that he's in is Speed Test and Sweet Mystery of Life, Falling in Love with Someone. Those two are very, very difficult. Speed Test is a very fast song. It picks up every time he says the same chorus again and again. For Sweet Mystery, it's a very operatic song. You've got to have a very, very operatic style towards the way you speak, the way you talk to another character, anything, really. This is also again in I Turn to Caller, Falling in Love with Someone, reprise. He is just saying the same thing again that he did in the last song that he did, in a very operatic way. And that's it for Trevor Graydon. Dorothy. Now, in this, Dorothy is the sister of Jimmy. Now, at this point in the musical, at the beginning, Dorothy is Dorothy. She's herself. She's whatever, but she's the perfect role for a young lady with a lovely voice. She is a much more refined version of Millie, which means that she's a very posh. She has a very posh accent. So she also says that she is from California. So you could try a Californian accent. So a Californian accent could be pretty much good for her, really. So for the gender, I'd say female. I wouldn't be surprised. It's a very young role. I think she needs to be... I think it would be perfect if it was a female. If it was a male, then, I mean, go for it, but... Voice range is a soprano. She was a very, very high... she has a very, very high range when it comes to speaking, singing, anything. She's very light on her feet. She moves around like a ballerina. Like, she's light on her feet. She's on her tiptoes quite a lot, and all that such. She is also a mover as well for a dance routine, which does carry on to the point of that she's not a dancer, but she does do a lot of tap when it comes to the beginning of the musical. Now, I'd say you should learn tap for this character, because in How the Other Half Lives reprise, you have to tap on a board that's lifting you up. So when it's lifting you up, you have to tap, and it's quite essential towards the way that song is playing. But other than that, you haven't got much trouble. Again, in Sweet Mystery, you have to sing in a very operatic way. Trevor and Miss Dorothy have a very operatic voice, especially when it comes to speaking to other characters. Speaking to other characters, I'd say probably just speaking as themselves. Miss Mears is the main villain of the story. She's like the Cruella de Vil of 101 Dalmatians, meets Hannigan from Annie. She is a failed actress who has an excellence for a sense of timing, good comic timing, and anything really. She can be a very funny character when she goes into her Chinese character, but she is a very evil character, so I'd say you can overdo the character, but you've got to make sure that you can fake a Chinese accent, but you don't have to speak in literal Chinese. you can speak in English for that Chinese. But you can also switch between the Chinese and the New York accent, which is very essential towards the character. Gender, female. Voice range should be a mezzo or mezzo soprano or a alto. That is because of one song, They Don't Know, which is a very powerful song because it's basically saying towards the audience, they won't find me. They will have no chance of figuring out that it was me. Again, she's a mover. A lot of these characters are movers. She doesn't do much dancing towards the musical. She just stands and speaks loads. Her age range is an adult, a mature adult, so I'd say 30s to mid-30s. Either of them. And yeah, again, you have to fake a Chinese accent in English, though, which is fine, and a New York accent. But I preferred if you didn't do a... It would probably be preferred if you didn't do a Brooklyn accent for any of these characters. Again, that is essential. The main songs that she does is They Don't Know and Muchin. But she's also in Thoroughly Modern Millie reprise just to be arrested. Now, the hardest characters in the whole entire musical, Ching Ho and Bun Fu. Now, for these characters, you have to have the amount dedication towards this musical. They were both deported to America. These characters must learn some Chinese. Ching Ho would be played by a boy, and Bun Fu could be played possibly by a girl. Or it can be the other way round. Either way, it's fine. These characters sing, dance, and act all in the Chinese language. That is the big problem that anyone who is going for Bun Fu, Ching Ho will have. Now, Bun Fu can be played by a male or female. The vocal range, I'd say, would be a baritone. That would be a very good style for him or her, because he's a very brother or sisterly like character towards Ching Ho, because Ching Ho is a very younger character towards Bun Fu. He is a mover again, and I'd say Bun Fu is like an adult, a young adult. Same with Ching Ho as well, but I'd say Bun Fu would be older than Ching Ho. For learning the Chinese, you have to learn Mandarin and Cantonese. That is the same with Ching Ho as well. It is very essential towards the way you present these characters. If you didn't speak Chinese for these characters, it would be very awkward towards the way you speak towards the other characters, because they'd be really confused, because they would most preferably know that you would be speaking in a Chinese accent, because there's a few times in the script where Ching Ho speaks only Chinese throughout the whole thing, and one character is just really confused about what they're saying. Probably that is Mrs. Mears. For Ching Ho, it can be played by a male or a female, and the vocal range is a tenor. Again, he has a very high voice because he is younger. He's younger than Bun Fu. And when he's younger than Bun Fu, he can be very unknowledgeable towards the way he's speaking. He is also a dancer. He's not a dancer, he's a mover. He is a mover because he doesn't move that much. It's also the same with Bun Fu. He is a mover. They don't really dance that much, they just move around the stage. The age range is a young adult or an adult. That would be because of how young these two can be. But I'd say Bun Fu is late 20s, Ching Ho early 20s, at least. Because these two are very, very different towards each other. They both have different mentalities as well. In Act 1, they sing Not For The Life of Me reprise, which is all in Cantonese. And in Act 2, Ching Ho sings I Turn the Corner and Falling in Love with Someone. In that song, there's loads of people who are singing in that. So it's really nice when it's hearing it. Bunfu and Ching Ho are both in Mu Chin, and they're in right at the end of the musical as well. So, those are the main characters for Thoroughly Modern Millie. So going from Bunfu and Ching Ho all the way up to Millie Delmont. I really hope this was useful, especially for the people who need it for the characters, for the main characters. I really hope it goes well for any of them who go for these characters. My one suggestion for each character would be to analyze them properly. So from the descriptions that I've given, you could say more about the character, because for example, Jimmy is a very goofy character. He has got good comic timing. You could over exaggerate it more, make him a very comedic character. You can make him very goofy, but you need to balance it between goofy and very charming. That's the only thing I would say for Jimmy. Graydon, you have to be really firm from the beginning to the end. Dorothy, you have to be very sweet. You have to be very kind. You have to be very light on your feet. Miss Mears, you have to be very, very maniacal. Bunfu Chin Ho, you can be very confused at times, especially when they're speaking English. You might know that they're speaking English, but you can just be really confused half the time. Because of time, I wasn't able to do Flannery, Ruth, Lucille, Cora, Ethel Pease, Rita, or Alice. The one thing I would say for them would be Flannery, you have to be really bossy. You really want to be like, Mr. Graydon. But you can be your own character. The vocal range would be a mezzo-soprano, and you have to learn how to tap, because there is a tap number in Act 2 in Forget About the Boy, where she does her own tap solo. For the Priscilla girls, I would say you need to be very up yourselves. You need to have a little bit of an ego, especially when it comes to that character. So I'd say that would be a very good thing for you guys to do. And that's it for the characters of Thoroughly Modern Millie. I really hope you enjoyed me talking about it. Apologies for not showing any visual showings of what I was talking about. I was not able to upload it properly. Thank you, and goodbye.